Welcome base builders and raiders to Rust Balance Report. My name is Shuk, and after playing Rust for thousands of hours, I decided to do a balance report. As you can imagine, this video is going to be about things I find unbalanced. So before I start analyzing the current state of the game, I would like to thank Facepunch for their incredible work that kept me hooked up for years. Also, to start with something positive, I have to say that cupboard and upkeep changes are exactly what Rust needed. This video is separated in 4 chapters. The PvP balance, which focuses on building items, since the gun and explosive gameplay is balanced quite well. The PvE balance, which is more about the basic mechanics than about NPCs, and a general analysis of the overall gameplay. I will also try to come up with some possible recommendations for the things I find unbalanced, since I would like to offer some constructive criticism. Chapter 1. PvP. As you all know, besides the twig tier we got 4 tiers of building structures. Wood with 250 hit points, stone with 500 hit points, sheet metal 1000 hit points, and armored with 2000 hit points. To be able to enter our homes we got 3 tiers of doors. The wooden door with 200 hit points, the sheet metal door with 250 hit points, and the armored door with 800 HP. Don't get confused about the hit points here, this is just the way Facepunch calculates the amount of damage something can take. Of course, the sheet metal door needs 4 satchel charges, while the wooden door only takes 1, even if they almost have the same amount of HP. Since this measurement can be quite confusing, let's switch to calculation with satchel charges. A wood wall needs 3, a wood door 1, a stone wall needs 10, a sheet metal door 4, a sheet metal wall needs 23, while the armored door needs 12 satchel charges. So overall, you can see that walls are almost twice as strong as their door counterpart. I still like the idea of forcing players to break doors instead of walls, because this way raid routes can be predicted. But of course, I also see a little problem here, and it is the armored tier. Armored walls need 46 satchel charges, while armored doors only need 1/3, 12 satchel charges. So this means that in terms of security, there is no reason for players to upgrade from sheet metal to armored. But let's take a step back and analyze why. Rust is a game about protecting your loot from other players. In order to do so, players try to get as many walls as possible between their loot and their enemies. In the old days, honeycombing did the job, but since this mechanic has been countered by the developers and doors still being the weak spots, players nowadays solve this problem by constructions like this. They use drop boxes and spawn in a sealed off loot room. I guess the original purpose of drop boxes was to help you drop your loot while you're farming instead of going all the way to your loot room through each and every door. Today, it's mainly used to overcome the door weak points. This all results in the armored tier not being used. But there would be an easy solution to get rid of this problem. Give us 4 tiers of doors for 4 tiers of building structures. By adding the missing stone tier door and changing the amount of charges needed, the outcome could look something like this. Wood wall, 3 satchels. The door, 1. Stone wall, 10 satchels. Stone door, 4. Sheet metal wall, 20 satchels. Sheet metal door, 8 satchels. Armored wall, 40 satchels. Armored door, 16 satchels. Of course, this would also mean changing the tier of the door. I recommend giving the wood door tier 0, stone door tier 1, sheet metal door tier 2, and armored door tier 3. I know some of you will be bitching about the raiding getting too hard this way, but please don't forget, it's only 4 satchels more than it is at the moment, and 90% of the bases you see on vanilla servers these days are made out of stone and they're using sheet metal doors. Armored doors are still hard to get, and you hardly see armored bases. If people don't use the armored tier, why do we even have it then? That said, I want to extend the topic to what I call deployable defense items. After your base is up and ready, you might start thinking on how to defend your loot better than just using layers of walls and doors. First of all, we got 5 basic deployables for our base defense. The wooden barricade, the barbed barricade, the metal barricade, the high external wood wall, and the high external stone wall. Let's have a look at the barricades first. The wooden barricade is a tier 0 item, can be destroyed with 6 fire arrows or a stone axe and 15 bandages. The barbed barricade can be destroyed with only 9 fire arrows, which is just a little bit more. And the metal barricade suddenly needs 4 satchel charges. In my opinion, wooden barbed barricades are entirely useless. You can check this fact out by simply wandering around the server and look out for them. You will only find them on places where people found and placed them randomly. Looking at the balance of Rust, I think there is a 4th tier of barricades missing that can't be burned or hacked down easily, but also doesn't need 4 satchel charges to destroy. For example, the improvised scrap metal barricade. that just needs one satchel. But that's not the only problem with barricades. For me, it seems like the developers somehow missed the point that the strength of a barricade should not be measured by the single appearance, but as part of a larger construction. A single barricade is useless. The cost of several barricades together is very high, but still they are only as strong as their weakest point. So what can we use these for? The main purpose of barricades is protecting furnaces, base entrances, the bases itself, or roofs. Let's try out the furnace first. Protecting it will take at least 7 barricades, a foundation, doorway, floor, door and a lock. Which means 3000 wood, 90 fragments and 6 rope. What does it need to break through? 200 wood, 100 stones and 40 cloth for bandages. But hey, okay. Let's go up a tier to barbed barricades. This will take 3400 wood, 440 fragments and 6 ropes. To raid this, it needs 9 fire arrows, 100 wood, 50 cloth, 50 low-grade fuel. For me this seems a bit unbalanced. But let's have a look at the strongest tier barricade, the metal barricade. So we're trying this with metal barricades now. This costs at least 500 wood, 1500 fragments, 1200 stone and 12 blades. And you need the tier 2 workbench, of course. So what do you need to take it down? 4 satchel charges? No. We need absolutely nothing, because we can just jump over the barricade with a friend or use a ladder. This also works with every other tier of barricade, of course. So maybe we just need to add more barricades. No, this also doesn't work. Have a look at this. It's even possible to empty a furnace naked where there is 2 rows of barricades. So maybe barricades shouldn't be used for covering furnaces. Maybe we should use them to protect our roofs. Which is also not working, because why would you cover your roof when anybody can just take the side entrance on top with floors? Okay, so barricades must be for something else. Maybe it's base protection. Even ladder protection. Again, false. Adding barricades to your base won't help you, since it would be possible to jump over. Adding a second layer of barricades also wouldn't help you, because it's still possible to build floors and then ladder up. Adding a layer of barricades on every level of your base won't help you, because attackers can still add triangle floors that can't be covered with barricades. The only real purpose of barricades so far is covering an entrance for high external walls. Which brings me to the next big balance problem: high external walls. In terms of health, high external walls are quite balanced. It takes 250 fire arrows to destroy a high external wood wall, and about 10 satchels to destroy a stone wall. But that's not the problem. The biggest problem is that you can climb any wall with 2 ladders, 15 bandages and the basic wood armor set. Say you got a really small base and you only need 10 stone walls. This takes you 15,000 stone and 20 minutes to craft, as well as a tier 2 workbench. To overcome these walls, you just need a tier 1 workbench for the ladder, and it only takes you some wood, ropes and a bit of cloth. The point I'm heading towards here is that in order to protect the outdoor parts of your base, you will need at least 2 tier 2 items, such as the stone wall and the metal barricade, to protect it against nakeds. And even if you do, it just needs 2 ladders to overcome your line of defense. Also remember that getting a ladder and wood armor is really easy. Getting the blueprints for walls and metal barricades is very hard. Why Facepunch decided to make the stone gate a tier 3 item is beyond my imagination. Maybe to avoid players using it instead of walls, but it's so expensive anyway, I don't believe this would happen if it was a tier 2 item. To get to the end of the defense deployables, here are my simple suggestions for solutions and how to balance this. Add another tier of barricades that can't be burned. Make the building blocked area of barricades higher and don't allow players to move when they are on top of them. Make high external walls a no ladder zone. Therefore, make it a bit cheaper to destroy them. My final statement: raiders shouldn't be able to just bypass defensive objects. They should pay a reasonable price to take them out. In any case, they have the ultimate tool to do so: explosive and of course fire arrows. Before we go to the next section, here comes a short analysis of deployables that are not used at all or used in another way than originally intended. Sandbags, not used at all. Concrete barricades, were good for ladder protection, but that's gone, so not used. Stone barricades, also not used at all. I guess the original idea was that these barricades offer advantages in gunfights, but these days people more likely use high external walls for that, which leads to beautiful landscape impressions like this. My solution for this: use concrete barricades for ladder protection again. If you want it gone, place a satchel on it. And also, it would be still possible to break into the base at a lower point. Maybe make stone barricades a bit stronger and double their HP so they can be used to fill up empty rooms for some additional protection. And for the sandbags, let us use the sandbags as fire protection for our external wood walls. Maybe even give us a snap point so there won't be any gaps between the bags. That all said about defensive deployables, let's move on to traps. We got 6 different types of traps: floor spikes, bear traps, mines, shotgun traps, flame traps, and the auto turret. I'm not even going to comment on the floor spikes. Bear traps and mines might have been a funny idea, but in reality nobody uses them. Again, the reason for this is that they can be bypassed extremely easy. First of all, they are way too easy to spot and can only be hidden in bushes or grass, what makes them useless for base protection and absolutely perfect for annoying poor night kids out in the wild. Also, see what happens if you want to cover a large area with them. My solution for this problem: let us hide mines and bear traps like the small stash, or under other deployables. The shotgun trap. This one is actually not bad. Still, there are some really big issues. It can be destroyed with just 25 arrows while being quite expensive, especially if you always fill it up as much as possible. Shotgun traps also have a huge blind spot, since they are quite huge and it's always possible to destroy them without taking damage. I'm not sure if my solution for this would overpower them, but as it is now, I consider them being almost useless. Maybe it would be good to reduce their size for less blind spots. Or only let them be destroyed with serious amounts of bullets or few amount of explosive rounds. By the way, this is the only way I found to give shotgun traps as little blind spot as possible. For me, the only solution to fix this is reducing the size of shotgun traps by half. The blind spots would be less, since it's possible to place them closer to walls, or let us only destroy them with a serious amount of normal bullets, or just a few amount of explosive rounds. The flamethrower. Well, let's try this without commentary. Naked bypass? Really? Please triple the damage. Finally, the auto turret. Have you ever noticed that there are a lot of raided bases with empty auto turrets instead of non-auto turrets? Yes. Guess what? That's because nobody needs to destroy them. Even if it filled up completely, there's always a possibility to empty the turret, and while the base builders spend an insane amount of sulfur on crafting ammo, the raiders just need some bandages or syringes. Also have a look on how easily you can trick the turret and take it out with a water pipe shotgun and some handmade shells. Face punch. Please, give this turret a hit detection, so it won't waste all its bullets on our own barricades, walls or other deployables. Also, it would be nice if it would actually be able to target players running by. That said, my final statement to turrets: I think the game would be much more balanced if we could only destroy turrets by using explosive ammo, bean can grenades, F1 grenades and rockets. If you don't have these items, go for normal bullets then and pay a higher price. But being able to destroy these lines of defense with arrows, handmade shells or just empty them out is kind of fucked up. Also, nobody uses explosive ammo anyway, so give it a purpose. Let's head over to PvE. This is going to be a short one since it's almost not existent. Eating and drinking, for example, is not really necessary, because in 8 out of 10 times you would rather kill yourself and spawn half fed for going out to farm. The risk of getting shot in the back while you can't hear approaching enemies is extremely high. You don't want to waste food or gear. Just a side note here, a backside only armor for farming and running away could solve the problem of always being killed while farming. People only use food to gain full health before raiding or visiting a radiation area. Two things would be nice at this point. First of all, make running and harvesting resources consume much more food and water. And by this, raise the importance of farming. I'm just wondering why we would have game mechanics like this if it's not really important for the gameplay. You don't eat or drink, and you're too weak to run, harvest or craft. Today you can still plant pumpkins and corn in snow and desert biomes. I'm just wondering, why in hell would anybody use planter boxes as long as you don't need food to survive and hemp is found so commonly that you actually have to throw away stacks of thousands from time to time? Again, there is an easy solution. Only make it possible to plant seeds in planter boxes. If you want a steady income of edibles or cloth, build a farm. Animals and AI. While I'm still amazed about Facepunch adding scientists, the Bradley and the Chopper, I have to admit that I think that there is much more potential in animals. Most of the time, it's really easy to outrun animals and they are not a real threat. I guess making them a little faster and a bit stronger wouldn't break the game. Resources. Since I think the most things about resources are pretty balanced, I will only complain about one thing: high quality metal, which is basically needed for every good item in the game and can only be obtained by harvesting metal nodes, giving you 2 HQ ore, or by recycling components. So to give you an idea on how hard it is to get HQ, let's have a good look at this. A 2x2 with airlock needs 47 HQ per 24 hours, equals 23 iron nodes that you have to harvest for the HQ ore. And because you might get killed from time to time and the iron nodes need some time to grow back, I would guess a solo player needs to play at least 2 to 3 hours a day to keep this 2x2 up and running. If you want any higher tier items, you have to farm and play more. Of course, it is possible to recycle items at various radiation zones, but this is only an option for groups and clans, or solo players playing very early in the morning while official servers are empty. To solve this problem, I would recommend 2 things. Either adding a small recycler that could be deployed at your home, only has 1 slot and takes much longer to recycle items, or adding a high quality furnace that gives you the option to turn metal fragments into HQ metal at a very high rate. Again, this might not be the perfect solution, but even after Facepunch reduced the upgrade costs of the armored tier, we have the problem of people not using it. In general, this is the end of the PvE section, even if some of the following topics are related to the PvE mechanics. General balance. Here comes the last PvE related topic. First of all, thank you Facepunch for adding the tier and blueprint system with scrap metal. This was a great decision and makes the game more appealing in the long term. Still, there is one little thing that is kind of disturbing. Since the costs of experimentations and researches are really high, playing with a group of people mostly ends up in one person having all the blueprints. The reason for that is quite obvious. While every experimentation reduces the possibility of getting unwanted blueprints, it would be a waste of scrap if everybody in the group would start experimenting. So this leads to a group of players having access to certain blueprints, but always one person has to be online to craft the items. There are 2 solutions for this inconvenience, and I'm pretty sure I will earn a little shitstorm on every one of them. Make learning blueprints a group activity. Every time somebody learns a blueprint, within the radius of 2 foundations, people standing by will learn the blueprint as well. And the second solution, and I know this might be a game-breaking one, but anyway, give us the opportunity to teach blueprints. I don't think this would end up in a massive abuse of everybody having all the blueprints in no time, because today it's also possible to just spawn at another player's base and craft every item for him. The point still is, nobody gives away his knowledge for free, which brings me to my final topic, good versus evil. Rust is a game about aerial domination. Every group of players has the same access to resources and items. So within the first weeks of a wipe cycle, people are getting rid of their weaker neighbors, leaving the area with just a few stronger ones. After another week, the area will be most likely be wiped of all players except the one group. This one group, the aerial dominator, will start wars with other aerial dominators, and they fight for the server domination. local emperors can always keep their area clean of new players and bases, since by the time they are big enough, small bases can be raided without any effort. This game dynamic makes Rust highly competitive and fun, but it also reduces its potential. The main problem here is that the majority of players are forced to quit playing the game and wait for the next wipe before they can start over again and have a fair chance of surviving. The main reason for this problem is that there is no need for one group or one player to work together with another. Rust is as simple as that. Whatever you have, it's better when it's mine. This also results in the shoot on sight mechanic everybody knows. At this point I won't judge the core mechanic of Rust too much, but still there is a perspective and idea I want to share with you. Imagine Rust being a game where groups of players have to work together to guarantee a steady infrastructure. Let's say one group has access to a large furnace, one group has a sawmill, another one has a recycler, and one group runs a big farm for vegetables. The only thing needed for this is some restriction on how groups of players can specialize on producing certain items or resources. And make sure that it's really hard for a group to own everything. Maybe if there is a lot of space needed or you need a high amount of manpower to run these lines of production. In this case, it would still be possible to eliminate every other group in your area and take over their bases. But hey, what's a kingdom worth if there is nobody in it to be ruled? My final point is, by adding a dynamic like that, the amount of players playing through an entire wipe cycle would be much higher. Instead of small groups thinning out the area and some very few survivors make it to the end of the game, we would have entire communities of people fighting each other. Thank you very much for watching this whole video. Before I leave you to write a comment on how all these things I said are bullshit, I would like to give you one more thing to complain about. A thank you. Imagine a world of Rust where you can thank a player once an hour, and let's say 10 thank yous give you a random blueprint.